So I just saw the recent Indian action film entitled CRAKK, JEETEGA TOH JIYEGAA. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Just call it CRAKK. This is a film that is set semi-futuristic, but not really. There's this young, mulleted Mumbai parkour enthusiast and internet stuntster who's trying, or had been trying with his brother, to get onto this worldwide underground internet-based Ninja Warriors type competition entitled Maidan that was run by this guy named Dave. D-E-V. Spelled in the subtitles D-E-V. In my mind, I'm saying Dev, but on screen they're saying Dave, which is funny because at one point, the deal with this is that this underground Maidan competition is also engaging in shady, using itself as a cover for arms deals of plutonium to foreign powers. And at some point, the international, I guess this takes place in Poland. That's where this competition is being held. So a local fashionable Polish lady, international Polish FBI kind of agent is trying to bust Maidan and thwart this arms deal that spells potential doom for her country. And she's trying to get our hero involved with double dealing and spying and bugging and all that kind of stuff. And at some point they're saying, we have to foil this international mastermind, Dave. And for somebody in America, the name Dave is just like this casual name for a person named David. And it just seemed funny that it was this big buildup and the bad guy's name is Dave. But it's a name in Indian. That's cool. So basically the idea of this movie is almost at its core like a futuristic Indian, and it's not even really that futuristic in how it's done with the internet and all these high-tech gadgets and filming and graphics and all that, but it really seems to be the world that we currently live in. It's sort of like Enter the Dragon, sort of like Gymkhana, if you will, where all these competitors from all over the world who've posted videos online and have been angling to get into this Maidan competition are selected by Dave and his crew and the shadowy board of older people that run this competition. And so it's people from, Russia, America, India, China, all over the place. So it's the international cast of characters and caricatures, and they are all brought into this castle, this fortress, if you will, to be basically prisoners, but they're residents there and they can train and they will engage in these races, they call them, where they all compete and a certain number are eliminated, and whoever goes on to the final person left standing goes up against Dave, the master himself, to see if they can be the master of Maidan and win all kinds of money and accolades. The backstory of the film is that our hero and his brother were training to do this together, doing all kinds of crazy stunts, running on top of moving trains and hanging out of moving trains and putting them online and trying to get the attention of Maidan. But the brother actually had made it into Maidan and made it all the way up to potentially the top spot, going up against Dave, but he died. So part of this is the younger brother trying to do what he always dreamed of, trying to achieve this goal for his brother who can no longer achieve it. And then as the story develops, perhaps trying to figure out if his brother's death was at the hands of Dave, if it was intentional, and what's going on. And the question of will he or won't he participate with this female agent in trying to get inside Maidan and take it all down. So I went into this movie blind, as I usually do with Indian films, which I tend to enjoy Indian films. I've always said I've yet to see an Indian movie that I didn't enjoy on some level, and it's still true of CRAKK, because this is so weird. As an English speaker to say, I really enjoyed CRAKK. I had a great time with CRAKK the other day. It sounds weird, but that's the easiest way to pronounce this title. It's got elements of Enter the Dragon, The Running Man, the Mad Max, Hunger Games, all that stuff. The games themselves are very interesting and exciting. I will say the action in the movie, we get several sequences of our hero doing parkour and things like that. A lot of it is not shot very well. A lot of it is shot to emulate what people wearing GoPros are shooting themselves. So it's POV and it's a lot of cuts and it's shaky, and I'm just like, you're not letting me see him do anything in full that's impressive. I'm seeing the beginning of something that might be impressive and then the aftermath of something that might be impressive, but a lot of times the camera movement or the editing is not showing me the really cool stuff. So that was a bummer, but there is enough in here that is cool that made it a lot of fun. Now, some of it I was enjoying on an unintentionally comedic level. Some of the language things, it's just how it translates. Things that in India are just the way things are said, read as funnier when you hear it as a native English speaker or an American. There's a lot of kind of dodgy special effects in the movie, that special effects in editing and how they convey the action, that made me really long for the days of Hong Kong filmmaking where they were, fortunately or unfortunately, people putting people's lives at risk to do the action because it looked real and it was real and you were just like, that's amazing. In this, they work around it so much that it's just like, okay, I see that he's a parkour guy, but I'm not wildly impressed by it because it's wires or it's cutting or it's CGI or whatever it is. But Siddharth, I'm sorry, is the name of our hero. And it's very incredibly immature. And again, nothing against anybody. The last name, which is apparently a very common last name in India, of Siddharth, our hero in this film, is Dikshit, and it's pronounced that way. So as an immature English-speaking American, sometimes when I saw that name on screen or read it, I giggled a little bit. Nothing against anybody who may have that last name. I'm just saying it's one of those things that are translation things that just work out interestingly. I'm sure many things in the other direction go the same way. It's surprising amount of English in this movie. So if you're somebody who's like, I don't want to go see one of those Indian movies and I have to read the whole thing. Now, when these things come to streaming and Netflix, a lot of times they do have the opportunity to just listen to an English dub track. But in the theater, it's when I go to see them, I like to see them in the original language, and I'm fine with reading subtitles. This, so many people speak English. Sometimes it's in part, but other characters just speak it in full, that I don't want to say 50-50, but it's probably more English than in an Indian film that I've seen in a long time. It breaks so many filmmaking rules of mine in terms of how it's shot and cut, but it does not break the cardinal rule of filmmaking to me, which is don't be boring. This movie is never boring. It moves right along. It is over the top, goofy, and bonkers at times, but it was entertaining. And that's what I love about Indian cinema, is that to me, the ones I've seen at least are always entertaining. They're long, they're 2.5 hours, which this is a little under 2.5, I think, does not waste any of the runtime. The races that are involved in the film. The first one, it looks like it's right out of Mad Max Fury Road. It's there's a flatbed truck in the desert, and it has these flags on it, 16 flags, which is far fewer number than there are contestants. And the contestants have to basically hop on these dune buggies that are remote controlled by spectators. So the spectators are trying to make it so these people can't get in them. They have to get onto a dune buggy, disable the remote control, and then race to the back of this truck, get on the truck while it's still moving, and grab one of the flags to remain in the competition. So they're trying to get on these. Oh, and the dune buggies also have timers that are either 30, 60, or 90 seconds or something like that. That's how long they'll go before they just stop. So there are so many challenges, and it was just a lot of fun. Yes, it was kind of sloppily shot, but there's some cool stunt work in it. There's some cool vehicle stuff in it, and I was kind of giggly watching that. My favorite of the competitions, toward the end, there's an extreme mountain biking competition, which was kind of funny. The favorite of mine, the big set piece, I think, in the film, other than probably the dune buggies is the biggest set piece, but the second one is contestants on rollerblades tethered by a bungee to a professional rollerblader while a pack of angry and hungry dogs is released. So it's just basically ravenous dogs taking out rollerbladers and people trying to avoid one or both of their people in their tandem being eaten or shredded by a dog. It was over the top, insane, and funny. It ends, and again, I'm not giving anything away. This is not unusual. It ends in an oiled, shirtless duel of the Titans between our hero and our villain, which is, I call it Duel of the Titans, when it's just mano a mano, the villain and the hero duking it out. It's that, but it's just oiled and shirtless and just majestically masculine. And toward the very end, one of the bad guys is vanquished. And I don't remember what CRAKK, C-R-A-K-K, is meant to mean in this film or in the Indian language, but I think it means victor or hero or badass or something like that. And at the end, I don't want to give it away. At the end, our hero does something James Bondian and badass action hero to get rid of a bad guy, and just before the bad guy expires, he looks into the camera and screams, "You crack!" Which, again, in the English language is kind of dirty. So that was kind of amusing. The credits start, and so it's an Indian movie. And I always joke when I go to see an Indian movie with friends, lovingly, that I'm going to go see the new Indian movie. Yeah, it's a comedy, drama, romance, action, martial arts musical, because they tend to just check off all the boxes in the genres and elements of the films, which again, just to me makes them wildly entertaining. This film had musical segments, which they always do, most always do, but they were more like musical montages while the characters were going about their thing. It wasn't like people breaking into song and dance. So the end credits of this movie start, and our hero actor looks into the camera, all smiles, which he isn't during the movie, and he basically says, "Oh no, don't leave yet. It's time to sing." And then there's the full-on Bollywood-style production number with the bright colors and the singing and the dancing and the actors and maybe the creative team or the musicians singing and dancing with tons of people around, and it's this huge festive thing after a movie that was pretty grim and dour, which was just funny that you get that very much at the end. It leaves you walking out on a high note. Also interesting to note at the beginning of this, like a lot of films, like American films, there are a lot of company credits at the beginning where it says, you know, such and such production, such and such film, such and such incentive and all that. This had Disney Plus at the beginning. So apparently this was funded by or will appear probably in India, not here, on Disney Plus. So as I record this, still in a few theaters, it'll live its life on streaming. If you want to see a crazy Indian take on The Running Man, Enter the Dragon, or Gymkhana, you want to see a film entitled, spelled CRAKK, you want Crack.